Good morning, boys and girls. Have you ever had any ants get in your house? I know I have, and when they come in my house, I really don't like them because I don't want them to be in my clothes, I don't want them to be in my food, and they kind of creep me out. But ants are really fascinating insects. And so today we're going to read a fictional story about ants, but there's a lot of facts about ants in this book. And so I thought you'd like this book. This is called The Magic School Bus Gets Ants in His Pants, a book about ants. You never know who's going to show up for a visit to Miss Frizzle's class. Take the other morning when Keisha arrived. She was following a tiny guest. Meet my friend the ant. Isn't she amazing? I wonder where she's headed, asked Keisha. It's no time for antics, said Carlos. We've got to pick a project for the science fair. The Frizz was tossing things from the closet. Ah, the passion of science, we heard her say. Where is... Oh, there it is. The Frizz put something on her head. It seemed to be a pair of antennae. She looked like our visitor. In the meantime, Keisha had lost her aunt. Arnold found her on his Mallow Blaster cookie. So that's why she came in here, said Keisha. She was looking for food. Then Keisha got an idea. Maybe we could do something about my aunt for the science fair, she said. Well, said Dorothy Ann, according to my research, where you find one ant, there's usually more nearby. That's right, Dorothy Ann, agreed Miss Frizzle. Ants live together in nests. Not like a bird's nest. This nest will be underground. So there's a lots of talk bubbles in here. I won't be able to go over a lot, but some of them, if you want to, you can stop the video and go ahead and read those. But what could we do with ants? Asked Phoebe. Keisha looked at Liz. The class lizard was holding a video camera. That's it, yelled Keisha. We'll make a movie. Phoebe shook her head. And my old school lizards weren't allowed to make movies, she said. I'll write it, offered Carlos. Phoebe wanted to help Carlos. Keisha would be their director, and her aunt would be the star. The rest of us would play ants. Liz, it seemed, would do the filming, and Miss Frizzle would take care of the costumes. Miss Frizzle always has the best outfits. It usually has to do with what we're learning about. Just as Keisha began to give orders, her aunt ran out of the room, and we all followed. Keisha's aunt soon caught up with lots of other ants. Look at them all, exclaimed Keisha. How do I know which one is mine? I've lost my star. Dorothy Ann had a book about ants. According to my research, your star has been telling the other ants about Arnold's cookie, she explained. Excellent observation, Dorothy Ann. Ants don't really talk, said the Frizz, but they do communicate. So a fact about ants is that they communicate. The Frizz told us that the food-finding ant is called the forager ant. I've got it, shouted Ralphie. We'll make a western starring an ant that rounds up food. We can call it Food Dude, said Carlos. All of a sudden, Miss Frizzle got that look that she sometimes gets, and then the magic school bus honked. All aboard, Miss Frizzle said. We each found a seat and fastened our safety belts. It's good to be prepared when you're going on a field trip with Miss Frizzle. Anything could happen. Soon the bus was spinning and shrinking, and when it stopped, the bus looked like Arnold's cookie. It tasted like it, too. But where were we? Different ants do different jobs, explains Mrs. Frizzle. Remember the forager ants? What do? They find food. Suddenly the bus was lifted up. Hey, we're being foraged, cried Wanda. Keisha, is the movie going to star a forager ant? Phoebe asked. And are we going to co-star as the food? Arnold added. He sounded nervous. No, said Keisha. The bus landed with a thud. Where are we? Asked Dorothy Ann. We're on location, said Miss Frizzle. Keisha looked out the window. It's an ant hill, she called. It's perfect. We'll meet the ants up close and personal. Come on, Liz. Liz and Keisha left the bus, but not for long. Hundreds of giant ants came after them. Who let them on the set? Yelled Keisha. They look like they're guarding the nest, said Phoebe. Great, said Ralphie. The movie can star a guard ant. Ralphie said, it'll be perfect for the wide screen with the stereo sound and... Smell-o-vision, said the Frizz. We had no idea what the Frizz was talking about. Guard ants use their antenna to smell if we are a friend or not a friend, she told us. Ants don't understand words, but they do understand smells. The ants began to smell us. The ants were checking to see if we smell like them, explained the Frizz. Their bodies make scented chemicals called pheromones. With that, she pushed a handle on the bus and sprayed us. Now we smell like these ants, said the Frizz, so the guard ants will let us into the nest. She led us from the bus, and as I always say, class, when visiting a nest, smell like the rest. Ooh, it doesn't look like they like that smell. The guard ants checked us with their antenna. They wanted to be sure that we were friendly. Then we entered the tunnel to their nest. Hey, look at this, yelled Tim. He pointed to hundreds of ants running back and forth. The place was crawling with them. Okay, places everyone, yelled Keisha in her best movie director's voice. But we weren't quite sure how to act like ants. What about makeup, Keisha? Asked Dorothy Ann. And what's the plot? Who's the star? Asked Carlos. Maybe we should get to know the ants better, Phoebe suggested. Good idea, Phoebe, said the Frizz. Understanding begins with observation, she told us. So observation is just looking with your eyes and seeing what's going on around you. I love it, cried Keisha. See the ant, feel the ant, be the ant. We watched some ants in action. This ant's rubbing its head, and this one is licking itself, said Phoebe. They're cleaning themselves, Tim figured out. We saw two ants passing food from mouth to mouth. One of the ants gave a sticky blob to Arnold. He knew what it was right away, part of his cookie. Oh, sure, give it back to me after you chewed it, Arnold grumbled. But a movie about ants sharing food did not seem very exciting. Carlos crossed that idea off of his list. Okay, he said, this movie isn't going to be about a forager ant, a guard ant, or a food-carrying ant. Keisha was still looking for a star for our movie, and as she walked towards one of the tunnels, some ants grabbed her and raced away. Then some other ants picked up the rest of us. Now things were getting exciting. We were part of a great chase scene. Suddenly they dumped us in front of a chamber. Wait a minute, yelled Tim. What's in there? He pointed into a room where ants were carrying something. They're like little worms, observed Dorothy Ann. An ant gave one to Arnold. You look like you're holding a baby, said Dorothy Ann. Maybe it's a baby ant. Miss Frizzle explained that baby ants are called larvae. Just one baby ant was called a larva, and that's what Arnold was holding. Who ever heard of a movie about larvae? Asked Keisha. We watched the ants move the larvae. I bet they're trying to keep those larvae warm, said Tim. Miss Frizzle explained that these were nurse ants. Their job is to move the young around the nest to keep them the right temperature. When they get a little older, the larvae will become pupae. But Keisha didn't want to do a movie about larva or pupa. Where's the excitement, she asked. What about an egg? Asked Phoebe. Where do ant eggs come from anyway? Good question, Phoebe, said Miss Frizzle. The eggs come from... Boys and girls, we learned this yesterday with the bees. Where did the eggs come from? The queen, you're right. Keisha loved it. That's it, a royal star, she said. Carlos and Keisha began to look for the queen, and while they were looking, Phoebe noticed water coming through the walls. "Heads down!" called the Frizz. The nest started to shake and the tunnel caved in, and we picked ourselves up. Ants ran past. There were ants everywhere. "Look!" yelled Tim. "They're already repairing the nest." "That's right," said Miss Frizzle. "They're the builder ants." Keisha was still on a mission. "To the queen!" she shouted. "There's only one, and she's our star." At first we didn't even see her. "There she is," said the Frizz. "She's the biggest one." "But she's not doing anything," said Wanda. Miss Frizzle said the queen was the only ant who laid eggs. This sounds very similar to those honeybees. Keisha was upset. "The queen laid an egg. The end," she said. "I thought a movie about ants would be perfect for our science project, but I was wrong." And she turned and ran out of the nest. Oh, she sounds very upset. Phoebe found Keisha sitting in the rain. "No movie, no story, no star," Keisha said sadly. "What kind of star just sits there and lays eggs?" "Without the queen, there wouldn't be the eggs," Phoebe said. "So," said Keisha, "without the ants that bring food, there wouldn't be a queen. Because, boys and girls, if no one brought food to the queen and the queen just sits there and lays eggs, the queen would get hungry and die." Suddenly she and Phoebe understood. All the ants worked together. Without the forager ants getting the food, there would be no food. Without the builder ants, there wouldn't be a nest because the nest would crumble sometimes. And without the guard ants, the nest could be attacked by the enemies. Keisha and Phoebe ran toward the bus. "They're all stars!" exclaimed Keisha. "Every ant on the anthill has a job to do, just like we each have a job to do to make this movie." "Forget the movie," said Arnold. "There's a mudslide." "It'll wipe out the anthill," Keisha said. She spotted a magnifying glass on the ground. "Action!" yelled the Frizz. We grabbed the magnifying glass to block the mud, and we saved the nest just in time. Back to school. Back at school, our science movie was a big success. We each did a different part, and the movie wouldn't have been the same without everybody's help. All right, boys and girls, I hope you learned some fantastic facts about ants and all their jobs that they do. And sometime when you go and you look at an anthill, watch and see if you can find those forager ants, or if you can see those guard ants that probably should be right at the beginning of the anthill. Have a happy Thursday.